stand as one, walk with thousands.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dad Bods and Beards. Today we've got a fun one. We've got one of Tyson's, you guys have known each other for a while, right? When you're buddies?
A lot of years.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Nice. So
We used to work out together, and he put me to shame.
I can see that. So we'll get to introducing Joe here in a minute, but as always, wanted to highlight our primary sponsor, Mountain Ops. If you guys haven't noticed, we have got quite a few episodes in the bank. We record quite a bit. Some come out in mixed matched order with, hey, we're running the marathon next week versus like, hey, we already did the marathon. So we're going to get better about sharing things timeline wise. So, but now that we are, it's going to, trust me, it works with social media, but we are post marathon now at this point. And I don't know about you, but I'm retaining a crap ton of water.
Yeah, I gained like 10, 12 pounds in one day just from water.
Wow.
Because my knees were like,
yeah, I was like getting out of bed. I was like, oh, that's not working. And so we're going to be definitely utilizing Mountain Ops and a couple of other sponsors, which we will eventually introduce. That's going to be getting us on our next.
well, we can say it. We've already signed the contract.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you guys know we're going to be doing High Rocks. So we're going to be working with 1% Fitness. We met Rob a couple of weeks ago, which we're going to introduce.
Does he go by Rob or Robert?
I think it's Robert.
Or Roberto.
Roberto. We're going to introduce that whole thing when we have him on the show. But back to what I was saying with Mountain Ops, I've been using a lot of the Renew lately.
Yeah, you always do.
Just to kind of help.
Renew helps him poop.
Help get things moving again because I am up about 10 pounds since the marathon.
I've just been taking a lot of minerals and I'm fine there.
Yeah. So as always, guys, check out Mountain Ops. Use code DADBODS. You'll get 20% off your order. And then every order goes to feeding families in need. So without further ado, Joe, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Speredon.
Yep.
Thank you.
Speredon.
No,
3 syllables.
This is why I can never get names right because Tyson is always like intentionally trying to mess me up.
It's true.
Before we get going, you literally look like you could be brothers with Tom Welling.
Tom Welling?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know who he is?
Yeah.
I'll
take that.
The guy who played the young Superman in Smallville.
Right.
Not regardless of the fact that you're like 8'2" on top of that, but I'm over here like thinking you look just like him.
Yeah, when me and him were working out, we'd always get paired together.
I wonder why.
No, because we at the time, I don't know now, but at the time we kind of lifted at the same weights and stuff.
I was going to say there's not very many times in my life where I've felt very small, and in this moment between both of you, I do feel very small.
Yeah, we definitely pushed each other there.
Just a little guy. So I don't know if you want to introduce Joe because he's your friend, or if you want to introduce yourself. I mean,
I'll let him introduce himself,
okay.
but I will say this: he's one of the nicest guys. Before I even knew him, the guys I worked with and all that kind of stuff, they would always like, yeah, when you meet him, he's the nicest guy, but he's huge. You wouldn't realize how much he can lift. And I looked at him like, oh, I know. It's obvious. Like, he can move a lot. So how much are you deadlifting now?
Oh, I haven't deadlifted in a while. Last time it was like 450.
Yeah.
Just because, I'm 44 now.
You and I are around the same age. I'm
Every
45.
year on my birthday, I'll deadlift 405, I'll squat 405, and I'll bench 315. Just to keep the standard,
Remember when we were benching, and what was it? And I was like at 495 or something like that.
You're insane.
That's when I tore my labrum. It was with him.
But he's still alive because
but I didn't know I tore my labrum. I just I'm just sore, and then I was carrying groceries and it popped out.
Oh, shit.
That's how I knew.
the damn bananas. It's like I have nothing to add to this because I used to lift pretty heavy, but I was your guys' warm ups.
That's such a dad story though. I benched 495, then carrying the groceries and I hurt myself.
It's so true.
That's so funny.
But no, it was really fun. We always worked out. We always had good conversations. And then I saw you at the X room, and I'm like, and I've been following you, because we don't work out necessarily at the same group anymore.
Right.
And he's a huge proponent of men's mental health, and he's a coach, and he's just really, really just amazing. And I'm like, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, okay, we got to have you on. And so here you are. So you can kind of introduce the rest of you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. Joe Speredon, born and raised in Utah, West Valley.
Speredon.
You tell the man. You trying to tell the man how to say his own last name.
I'm just joking.
Oldest of 6 kids. I have 2 brothers, 3 sisters. We're all very, very tall, very large. Born and raised here. Grew up going to Granger High School. If anybody knows any of those things, Now I've been married for 22 years. I have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. one point in time last year, I had 4 teenagers. They're getting older now, so one's 20. But that was an adventure. 4 teenagers is quite the endeavor. Are you there too?
I have had 5. I have 5.
Oh my goodness.
I got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. So.
Okay.
So I have a 21-year-old, an 18-year-old, and they all go down to 12.
Okay.
So
you're in the thick of it as well.
oh yeah, it's high emotions.
Yeah. High emotions and a lot of stuff. Football and basketball and all the things.
Oh, Candace is a taxi,
Okay. Yeah.
and I try to be, but I'm not at home as much.
So, grew up in Utah, living a pretty traditional life in the LDS church, served a mission to southern Brazil, and got home, got married, had a bunch of kids, and hit that kind of cliche point in 2020 where I was hitting 40 years old. And at that point in time, went into, again, cliche, but the midlife crisis state. Mm-hmm. And it was existential, and it was faith, and it was all just kind of wrapped up into one. And at that point in time, that was my entry into men's work. And like many men, it came from a place of desperation because I couldn't push down the emotions anymore. And I found a group called Sacred Sons. They do retreats, and it was an amazing experience. And I pretty immediately joined them and joined their leadership, and was able to travel all over the world and meet thousands of men. And in that experience, just awesome. Obviously hundreds of stories about the things that I was able to learn there. But in that experience, I kept wanting to bring it home. You guys have probably been to, Tony Robbins or different work retreats and things. They're really awesome. But then you go back to quote unquote normal life. And it's how do you bring that back with you? And so in Utah, I started a group called the Utah Men's Circle. And that was again in 2020. And we just started getting together. And I started that somewhat selfishly because I wanted it. I wanted that support. I wanted that brotherhood. And it was slow going at first, but that eventually grew, to where we were doing 3-4 circles a month and, have 40 to 70 guys at every one of those. And so that was a phenomenal experience. And that gave me a lot of opportunity to meet men locally and just continue to find out that we're all pretty much going through the same stuff. And we're all pretty much not talking about it. So I love what you guys are doing, the way that you encourage the conversation, the way that you encourage the authenticity, just to be real and to say, this is what I'm experiencing in life. And that in and of itself has just massive power. So that's me.
So what do you do in the circles? You said you were you had 4 circles at one point in a time, bringing 70. Like what does that mean?
The circle is really meant to be an introductory space because a lot of men don't have experience meeting and talking with other men. And there's kind of 2...
In a serious, vulnerable state.
Yeah, exactly. There's 2 historical experiences that most men have experienced or seen at least. One is the military boot camp, where you show up and they tear you down and rip you apart. And shockingly, people don't want to keep doing that, especially voluntarily. And the other one of those is where you get together and you're singing Kumbaya and you're all crying together, and it's very, very vulnerable. And a lot of times there can be some apologists for the male species in those groups as well. And so we didn't want to create either one of those. We wanted to have something new. And so the opportunity here was to come in and just let your voice be heard. This is my name. This is what I'm experiencing. And again, already being able to do that in a container that felt safe was massively beneficial. And then we had a lot of different things that we do. Sometimes play a game or just opportunities to get uncomfortable, maybe drop into a meditation. But most times it was go off into groups of 4 or 5 people and just talk about life, talk about what's going on. We'd ask some prompt questions, things like that. But it was an opportunity for them to be heard and to hear others.
What do you see as kind of the main things that you say, that they're going through after hearing thousands upon thousands of men and their struggles? What are kind of the main things that you're hearing all the time?
Man, that's a great question. I think number one would be that they feel isolated, that they feel like they're whatever it is that they're going through, whether it's addiction or financial pressures or relational pressures or fatherhood, they just feel alone in that because they're generally not talking to other people. That was my experience. the first event that I went to, they lined up people just, 3 inches from your face. And
That's how Logan and I met.
Right, yeah.
He just walked up to me like, what the crap?
If I was 3 inches, I'd be like 3 inches to your chest. Like,
Right, you're saying, what's going on in your
like-
life?
Well, he brought a baby stool.
Yeah, so I mean, the opportunity there was to be real and talk about what you were really going through.
Yeah.
And the guy across from me, the damn guy stole my answer. And then the next guy, same thing. And I was, really? Like, I'm not the only one feeling these things. I'm not the only one struggling with this. And these were guys that didn't look like me. I had this judgment
like
about, right? But I mean, all different races, all different age groups, all different ideologies and belief systems. But lo and behold, we're all still pretty much going through the same stuff. Mm-hmm. And that isolation is the thing that's killing us. It's the thing that really makes it unbearable. We can go through hard things, and when you have a reason, but then when you have people that you're connected to, it becomes so much more sustainable. And so that's the number one thing. But then inside of that, a lot of us have had experiences over our lives that, again, whether it was abuse or some sort of traumatic event or whatever it was, that we're not talking to anybody about it. Mm-hmm. And, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
That book, he talks a lot about the culture where we were raised believing that we weren't okay just as we are. And because of that, we've learned to keep it quiet. I'm not going to let anybody know what's going on in my life. I'm not going to let anybody know this thing about me. And it's not been serving us. So then when we started creating those groups and men started talking to each other, their lives started getting better. And a lot of the addictions that they were struggling with didn't have the hold that they once did, just because they knew they weren't alone in it. And so that shame and the blame and the guilt that was tied to it started to dissipate. So that was really cool.
So how'd you bring it home? How do you take what you're learning with the men and with the groups, and you're talking, because Logan and I have been a part of these and stuff like that. And they're very, very beneficial, and where you feel vulnerable and you feel accepted no matter what. So how do you bring that home when you feel like, now mind you, this is not me or Logan, and I'm sure it's not you, but you come home and you can't do that at home, or you feel like you can't do that with your wife or your kids, because some of us feel like, what we were just talking about this, just even with myself, like I am still learning how to communicate with my wife. Like I'll say something and it will come out completely opposite of what I meant it to do. Like it's more of like an attack when it wasn't meant to be. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden she's on the defensive when I'm like, wait, this wasn't meant to be anything like what you're taking it as. So how are you helping the men bring home what they learned so that they can implement it with their families?
Right. Great. When men want my help, because again, in that group, the intention was just to create a space to talk. And then from that, I had a lot of men that were saying, do you do one-on-one coaching? And so I started to do some one-on-one coaching, and I created a smaller group that I now run called the Algae's Guard from that.
And we will tag that in everything so people can find you.
Thank you. Yeah. But what I started doing is creating consistent times for us to get together and talk, because this was, for a lot of these guys, it was once a month. And it's very much like church for anybody that's a church goer. You can go to church, you hear all these great things, you get done with church, 20 minutes later, you're sitting in your underwear watching football, and it's...
Or in Logan's case, just butt naked.
Just naked, completely.
I don't even stop you.
Not even going to argue that one. So the idea was, how can we start to apply this? How can we start to practice this? And I would give advice or insights, suggestions on going home to your partner, if you had a partner, and saying, I would like to have a very authentic conversation with you. This is what would be helpful for me in that experience. Is that something that you can provide? And setting a stage and setting a container there to start having some of those conversations. And
See, I never would have thought to do that with my. I'm not joking. Like we've talked about this. We've done the high lows and gratitudes. We do things where I feel like we communicate better, like because we really do communicate better. But I like what you just said. That's interesting. I've never brought it up like that.
My experience has been with the majority of the men that I work with and talk to, if they have some sort of partner, whether it's a girlfriend or a wife or anything, they don't want to share because they feel it's a trick. And it's almost, again, a kind of a TV cliche. Wife says, what do you think? Do you think my friend's cute? Or do you think I look fat in this? I'm not answering that, right?
Yeah.
Like that, I would never answer that question because I have before and I got gut punched. But that's a reality. And it started with parents where we thought we were safe to say something. And then whether it was our mother or father, we got gut punched and we learned, oh, I can't let that part of myself be seen. And so then when I have a partner and we're talking about something, it's, I can't tell you the real thing because it's not going to be received in a good way. But if we can talk about how could you receive something in a good way, and do you feel like you have the capacity to do that? And let's start slow and let's start small. Then you start to practice some of those things. For me, a good one was the idea of saying, you're making me mad, or you're making me angry, you're making me sad. Can we start changing that verbiage to simply say, I'm feeling angry? So I'm still going to be there for the conversation, but now I don't feel solely responsible for the feeling that you're having. And that small shift started to build, and that had a big impact over time. And I do that with a lot of people that are close to me now as well. So it starts small.
I like that take. I like the instead of like trying to push blame for a feeling you might be having, it's more taking a little bit ownership, which that I would say is probably, if you could boil it down, with mental health, especially men's mental health, we talk about the stigma. We talk about, the inability to talk about it. We talk about all the different, we got to keep quiet. When in reality, we've said this a few times, the biggest proponents of the negative side of men's mental health are men. And I feel like we've gotten to the point with this show and everything that we're doing with Dad Bods and Beards and some of the other groups that we're starting to work with, is it's not so much trying to convince other people that men's mental health is a big, it's a big problem. It's convincing men to like, hey, can we talk about it? It's convincing men that you do have the permission in certain spaces. You can be safe here to talk about this.
Right.
Because I feel like that's the biggest work here is convincing other guys
That's
to
what I
find
really
the space to open up and to put in the work. Because it's not just okay, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, along with a few other things. And it's like, there's an entire month devoted to just men's mental health. We have beaten down the stigma a lot over the years, but our motto with our ethos, whatever you want to call it, is with Dad Bods and Beards is it starts with you. We've talked about it for days. Now you got to do something about it. So I like what you're saying of taking some ownership of your feelings, taking some ownership of finding out, what makes that trigger, what makes this happen, why, putting in the work to finding what led you down that road, to having that insecurity, to having that,
Well, think about us, because what I think is they don't know how to communicate it until they go there where they feel safe. And the next thing they know, they can just, blah. You and I didn't talk about this until we started a podcast. Then all of a sudden you and I realized that we can trust each other and start communicating how we feel. And now it's become a thing where I'll just tell everyone, oh, this is the day today,
Which is funny is because in the beginning when we started this, we're coming up on our 100th episode actually, which is really funny, is that we were word vomiting everything in the first 15 episodes.
We had to cut
we
so
had
much
so
crap.
many, our wives were having to listen to them and be like, no. You guys cannot put that in there. And so, but
because
now,
we had so much trust that we've never felt.
well,
that
it was
before.
almost kind of as soon as you get that, and I'm sure you've experienced that in some of these, you get that one guy who finally has that breakthrough and he just is unpacks
he says everything.
and it just is it's just this
because it's a talent.
word spaghetti, right? Of just everything they're feeling. And then it's okay, that felt good. You uncorked the bottle.
Right.
Okay, now let's go back and let's pick up that little strand of spaghetti and let's talk about just this one.
Right.
And now let's talk about just this one. And so I didn't know you were involved in heavily in these men's groups. So so tell us, obviously I see the tattoo in your arm and that matches your symbol on Instagram. So can you tell us a little bit more about the meaning behind the group and why you named it that and all that stuff?
Yeah, I appreciate you speaking to those things. I think in men's work, one of the biggest things that I have been focused on, because with the men's circle, I ended up switching to the Algies Guard. And the idea was it does feel really good when you get to finally say all of those things. And what I've recognized is a lot of people are starting to set up camp there. Is I'm sad, and I can finally tell somebody I'm sad, and it feels so good that I'm just going to kind of stay in sad now,
Yes.
rather
We've
than
talked about this quite a bit.
let's move on to the next thing. And the big shift for me that I have been focused on, because I feel like this is prevalent in our physical health and our mental health, our emotional health, is proactive over reactive culture.
Yeah.
Our physical health, just like you guys are doing right now, you can wait until you have a heart attack and then say, oh, I got to do something about this. And it's so much harder to do, and you're forced to do it. Or you can say, I think I probably need to make some changes. I'm going to do that now. Our men's mental health is the same thing. So I love what you're saying about it starts with you, is we don't have to wait until we're suicidal. We don't have to wait until life falls apart to start making some changes. And there's enough people out there that are willing to talk to you and talk about these things that you can be proactive. It doesn't have to be the way that it's been.
And I like what you said, because you don't have to be sad. You can be just a super happy person, and it's okay to come and just listen and share what you are feeling at that moment. Like, it's just, I was telling Logan, like, if we didn't start working out August-ish, I would have had a heart attack and be dead by now, because the stress I had about 2 months ago was the most stress I've ever had. Like, I was like, and so I'm grateful that you said that, but I just feel like mental health, you can always work on it no matter what, whether you feel like you're doing well. I think I'm doing really well all the time. And then I meet with Brock. He's like our life coach / therapist / coach / human person of ours.
And like physical tormentor.
Yeah, and I will say, everything's good. Well, let's talk about this. I'm like, oh,
Dang it.
like, I guess there's problems.
So I like that. I like that approach. That's been one thing that we've talked about a lot, is that there is this like this space that guys will sit in once they finally do talk and get some empathy and some understanding, and someone's holding some space for them, and it feels good. So then it's almost like it feels really uncomfortable to try and get them to move towards like doing stuff, which is the whole premise of why we have different people on the show, is talking about like every single person, which we just talked to Robert about this, a buddy of ours who flew out from Florida, that like he looks at rock bottom as like, man, I just landed on concrete, and you can build off of concrete. And so, but a lot of guys like to just kind of sit down there,
Right.
Get down there.
Right.
So is that primarily what you're doing?
So
with the group?
yeah, going back to the symbol algiz. Algiz is a Nordic rune, and it looks kind of like a tree, but it also looks like a hands outstretched. And so what it represents is both safety, because you can gather underneath that tree, and significance, like your hand stretched towards divine, towards God. And safety and significance, I believe, is really what we're all searching for. And one of my mentors taught me a lot about that in the absence of safety and significance, we seek for comfort and validation. And that's really what the world is about right now, is somebody needs to validate me, and where's the next place that I can feel comfortable. One of the books that I use a lot when I'm coaching is called The Comfort Crisis, which is about getting uncomfortable and how important that is to finding significance and finding that it already exists inside of us. So for me,
you don't need renew.
Yeah,
Live in that discomfort.
just living in it.
and that's a good point. There's a big difference between discomfort and pain.
It was very, very painful.
So discomfort indicates growth. Pain indicates something probably needs to change.
Bowel movement.
And renew could probably help.
I'm glad you're comparing like life choices and like men's mental health to going to the bathroom.
So in that space, for me, the idea, especially for men, because I work with a lot of fathers, a lot of husbands, is once you find that for yourself, you can then effectively provide that for others. But when we don't feel that, oftentimes what we're doing for others is just giving them a form of comfort and validation as well. My daughter's growing up, and she comes home from school and says, Dad, I had a hard day. I'm going to set her up on the couch. I'm going to give her a bowl of ice cream. Say, it's okay. And what am I teaching her? I'm teaching her to seek comfort when she's facing some sort of trial. But when I found my own safety, internal, my own significance, my connection to God, then I can start providing that for those around me. And that to me is part of kind of, a lot of people talk about king, the king energy, the king archetype. To me, that is one of the prevalent aspects of the king archetype, is being safety and significance internally, and then providing a space where those around you can feel that as well. Because when you look at our children and you look at ourselves, you spend the first 40 years of your life trying to figure out if you're safe and if you're significant. And if we can bypass that for the next generation and that just comes standard, imagine what they can do with their life.
Yeah.
If they don't have to spend the first, from 40 to 50 kind of healing from 0 to 40. Life changes. Everything changes when we can start doing that. So that to me is a big part of masculinity.
That leads me actually into what you just said about masculinity. That leads me into a question is we're kind of on this kick of, I feel like it's happening a lot here in Utah and in other places on social media. The alpha bro is falling off. And I feel like there is this new definition of masculinity being presented, especially from the groups that we run with and the guys that we talk to and the women that we talk to that help push forward like a positive masculinity. So if you had to, kind of put you on the spot a little bit here, if you had to give like a definition of masculinity from your perspective and the groups you've worked with and all of your experience, what would you, like, how would you classify it or what would you define it as?
So as I coach men and work with men, another book that I've used is kind of a structure for healthy masculinity. Because people talk a lot about toxic masculinity, but can't really ever say what that is. Healthy masculinity to me has to do with 4 archetypes, which is the king archetype, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And in each one of these archetypes, there's polarizations. There's unhealthy sides to embodying the archetype. And when you start to understand what it is to be in alignment with each one of these, then to me that represents healthy masculinity. And for each of us, we have different pursuits, we have different things that we do inside of those archetypes, but when each of us apply that to self and then can check in regularly to say, am I aligned or do I need to tweak something? So for example, the warrior archetype, the polarizations are the sadist and the masochist. And the sadist is where all the abuse comes from, right? The masochist is this idea, kind of the Goggins thing of like, if I'm not suffering, I'm not masculine enough. And that's not serving us either. But a warrior, he gets it done. And he is driven, and he's driven by something bigger than himself. And when I can check in with that and say, am I leaning into this thing where I'm hurting others? Or am I leaning into this side where I'm hurting myself? Or am I just really motivated and very clear about where I'm going in life? So if you can find alignment in each one of those archetypes, that to me is the definition of healthy masculinity.
I like that because it's not a cookie cutter answer. It's almost like the definition of masculinity is you finding your true self within, like, yeah. I'm just recounting literally what you just said. No, but I think I never heard it from that perspective. I mean, we've talked with Tanner Guzzi and he's talked about the different archetypes when it comes to how you express yourself through clothing and apparel and things like that. But I've never heard about it. In all the work and stuff that we've done, I've never heard it described like that. So it's definitely a rabbit hole I'm going to run down.
Yeah, I would like to get those books. We'll have to post them so people can read them.
Please do. Yeah, those
really
3 books, No More Mr. Nice Guy, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, The Comfort Crisis, and then Iron John are kind of my standard works.
That's my nickname.
Of masculine health. Yeah. Iron John? I remember.
Oh my gosh. So tell us about, I don't know, is it like like your vest or the halter or whatever you got?
The holsters.
The holsters.
So most people are like, oh, he's carrying guns. I'm not. And this one's my cell phone and wallet. And this one's some candy.
As it
I
should
like
be.
that.
Right, as it should be.
Yeah.
No,
I need one of those.
no. When I was working with Sacred Sons, this was a gift from them. And honestly, at first I was like, I don't know. I think it looks cool. I like wearing it because I think it looks good. And it's also really practical because I'm not sitting on my wallet. I'm not sitting on my cell phone. And I can just keep all my stuff right there. And yeah, it has candy been in there before, of course. But yeah, it was a gift. And I should talk to Tanner and see what his take is on this. So.
Sure. I don't know if like the stones had certain meanings or if it just was style or.
Yeah. I'm not big into stones. I have a lot of friends that are amethyst, I think is what these are. And they could probably tell you what that means a lot better than I could. But again, I like the way that it looks and it's very practical.
Cool. I was gonna say, I knew it was, you said something about being a gift because there's a few things that I have a couple of things that when you go down that kind of that battle route with people, like an emotional battlefield, things like that, things take on, especially gifts, they take on like a very sacred meaning to you, right? And so I like that. I mean, we've had Tanner on the show and talking about like styling and like we found out that Tyson's a little bit more rakish than we thought he was.
I had no idea.
He's a little bit more, not
But
as...
see, I was wearing tons of Dixons, and I still like Dixon, don't get me wrong. But I was wearing all those, and I was buying the biggest set I possibly could get because I was hiding. Because I was just so big and everything. And so now I'm kind of going a little crazy.
Yeah. Now we're in the shoes. But, so
I like bright.
So you're meeting with are you physically doing physical meetup with coaches, or do you do like online coaching, or what is it?
Primarily online. The Algies Guard, which is the men group that I run, we meet every Wednesday online for an hour. We'll do, for those that are in Utah, we'll do probably once a month, get together, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's service, sometimes it's heavy, and there's a lot of different things that we can do in those spaces, but it's just an opportunity to get together with other men, and that matters. And then with the one-on-one coaching, that's primarily online, just for, we're busy guys, right?
Oh yeah.
An app that I use a lot is Marco Polo.
Oh yeah.
And it's so good because it's better than text message. It's better than just the audio note. Just like this, you can see my face, you can see my gestures, and I can watch that, and you can watch that when it's convenient to your time. It's a great way for men to communicate.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't disappear.
Yeah, it doesn't, and you don't lose it in the text messages like I lose them.
Right.
So one question I had for you is your time working in different groups and having your own, the Algies Guard, all that stuff, and your coaching. What is, if you feel comfortable sharing, what is like maybe a major win you've seen with somebody you've been working with, and then maybe even something that was a little bit more of a heartache that you've seen?
Yeah. Those are good questions. With the men's circle, and I don't talk a lot about it because it wasn't me, and I had great co-facilitators that helped me and that we worked together and grew together, and so many beautiful men in those spaces. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a guy, and he was telling me about what he's doing for work. And he mentioned the name of one of the other guys that used to go to the men's circle. I said, did you guys meet through the men's circle? He's like, yeah. And now they're building a business together. And he was like, on top of that, my wife I met because of the men's circle. All of my closest friends came because of this place. It's like it's transformed my entire life. And I've had a lot of different people that have expressed things like that. And I'm proud of that. And I love that we were able to help so many men. And just like Sacred Sons did for me, I will forever be grateful to what they did because it saved my life.
Yeah.
And it made it so much more meaningful. And, on the flip side is, there was a man that would attend our group and went through some hard things and separating from his wife, and he ended up taking his life. And it's still hard. Yeah. Because when you step into any kind of position like this, there's responsibility there. And I felt really responsible for that and really hard about that for a long time. So I choose to let that help me be better and to continually push the edges of how I can show up for men and still show up for myself and my family. But there are men that are suffering. And when you find out that there's one that's suffering that you could have helped or maybe could have helped and it didn't happen, you carry that for a long time. It's definitely some heartbreak.
It's never, there's never like the right answer or the right response or things like that when you start talking about that situation, other than just letting it be another one of those, moments of bringing more awareness. And I mean, we just had a conversation with somebody today that was talking about that some of these bigger national groups, when it comes to suicide prevention or suicide awareness, there is still like this HR legal aspect of like, we can't really talk about that. We can't really show that. But as we've seen, and you've seen, Tyson's seen as well, is that, no, it's those vulnerable, like, I don't want to talk about this moments. That is what maybe that one guy needed to hear. We needed to hear about that brother that we did lose to that battle. Yeah. Or we were just, I don't remember the exact statistic, but we know that over 80% of suicides are men. And the lowest demographic that actually reaches out to 988 is men. Mm-hmm. And that's not a coincidence. It's because we feel, I think I speak for myself and probably most men, that we feel like when we do eventually start talking, if you're talking to the wrong people, it just gets brushed off because you're not being man enough. You're not tough enough, or men aren't supposed to talk
Or
about
you'll
that.
get over it.
Or you'll get over it.
See, and that's where I talk a lot. I say, I don't think there's necessarily a right way to do men's work.
Yeah.
But there's a wrong way.
Oh, 100%. I'm glad you said that.
That idea, again, David Goggins, I admire the hell out of what he can do and the ways that he's pushed himself. And I'm very much a proponent of seeking discomfort for growth. And this idea of if I'm not suffering, if I'm not 2 seconds from death, I'm not doing enough, or I can't ask for help, or I can't talk to somebody until that point, it's not serving us. And I see things all the time on social media where men will post something and, nobody cares. And I will every time get on there and like, that's bull. I do. And here's 10 other groups, 100 other groups that do, where you can go, where you can get help. Because like you said, we've broken through a lot of that stigma. So now it's getting away from that cultural thing of you don't have to suffer. Growing up, it was the same thing. My dad, he's a great man. He's a hard worker. And when I was growing up, he did not like his job. And what would we do at the dinner table? He'd complain about his job and talk a lot of times about how much he disliked it. And then would say, but I still go because I love my family. And we would glorify his suffering. And we do this in a lot of different ways as men. I've done this in a lot of different ways to glorify my suffering because then I feel like I'm more significant. Or more, accomplishing something.
Well, it's almost kind of like the running joke. I mean, it's all over social media of like, the younger generation. It happens every time they're coming up and they're getting jobs and they're complaining about 20 hours a week at Taco Bell or whatever it is. And it's kind of like, I remember my first, I'm working 60. I mean, when I was working 60, 70 hours a week, in the construction industry, yeah. There's a lot of times I enjoyed what I did, playing in the dirt, moving big trucks, machines, stuff like that. But then there's a lot of times where I was spent, and you do it because, you feel like you have to. And then you get in these weird macho competitions of kind of like, oh yeah, I do 60 hours a week easily. Or I'm only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. And then it's like, from this perspective, I'm kind of like, that's not great. I'm like, I know you got to do what you got to do, but for how long can you sustain that? And I'm not trying to say, quit your job, chase your dream. No, there's practicality and reality in all this stuff too. But it to me, what it comes down to, like you said, is like looking at that inward self of like, what are you missing out on because you're sacrificing so much of your happiness because you feel like you have this masculine duty to suffer.
Right.
When in like, I can firsthand, when I started focusing, we had this big conversation with a buddy today about one of the biggest issues that men are facing is self-love and self-worth. And you feel like you are only worth what you can provide. Yeah. And if you can't provide enough, then your self-worth goes even farther down. So it's doing that mirror work, that self-work, all that stuff. So I love this direction we were going.
Come with one thing that popped in my head as you were talking about that, both of you guys, is that I love my dad. The best human being you've ever met. Like, no, but when I was growing up, he was like, just make sure you always remember how to say I'm sorry, because you're always going to have to say it. Even if you're wrong, you're sorry. And I grew up like that, and so I'll say sorry to Candace all the time. And she's like, "Are you sorry?" And
I tell you to quit apologizing all the time.
And I'm like, "Well, no, I know you're upset." And she's like, "If you're not sorry, don't say it." And she's really good that way with doing it. And so I wonder if that's a little bit of self-worth. It's just like, you think you did something wrong because you grew up thinking that you're going to do something wrong, and so therefore you're doing something wrong, and so you're like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Like I'm personally affecting how you feel right now. I'm sorry about that. And I think that's a little bit about self-worth.
Yeah. I remember when I was like 9 years old in elementary school, they had me color in this thing for Mother's Day. It's like a picture of flowers and this, plates and this thing. And one of the things on that picture said, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy.
Oh, yeah.
And there's another one that said, not on there, but happy wife, happy life. Mm-hmm. Right. And the idea being like, that's what it's about. It's about keeping this woman happy and kind of betraying ourselves to that end, which is the same thing. I'm not saying you should go be a jerk, but that you should take care of self as well. Mm-hmm. That's people's number one reservation when I recommend that book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, is they assume that means you've got to be a jerk. And it's not. It's just about being self-assured and you taking up space as well.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because it's like with the whole, like, if mommy ain't happy, nobody happy, happy wife, happy life type stuff, right? That almost like inadvertently paints your wife or your partner in this negative light of like that they are this tyrant. When the reality is, like, and I'm speaking from personal experience, that when I got out of my own damn way and stopped being so pigheaded and let my wife into my life more and my emotions more, it was like, oh, our relationship improved. She wants to see, like, giving her the chance to, like, for her to show me, like, no, I want to see you happy. I want to see you win. We need to do this together. This is not a, if I'm not happy, you don't get to be happy. And if you're happy, it means that I'm sad. Of like, it's the concept of everything used to be, no, it's 50-50. Well, it's like, well, no, it's more, I'm at 20% today. You know, okay, I'll be 80% today. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you're both at 10 and you send the kids upstairs and you turn on Ted Lasso and you get Chinese food. But it's like, at the same time, not every relationship, I know, right? But not every relationship is perfect. Right. And we have a lot of guys that listen to this show that have been through some extremely rough, you know, relationship situations. And we know that there are situations where guys have opened up to women in their lives and they have just been gut punched, like you said. So I think that that's like the main message that we're getting here. And
and I wasn't speaking ill of my wife.
You've never spoke ill of your wife.
No, but what I mean though is like, she's teaching me like, oh, maybe I need to be more aware of what I'm doing.
But there is still, this is the thing is, and this is what I've picked up.
But I do apologize for everything.
Is there is different, one thing that I'm learning and I'm still learning really hard is that it's like trying to speak my wife's love language, right? Because it's like
hers is service.
Yeah, every other man has a physical touch. Can you speak mine a little bit more?
Yeah,
but no, it's like I was saying is not every situation comes down to the same. And I like where we've gone with this is that you've got to get right with yourself first before you can really, really give like the love you want to your relationships, whether that be with kids, whether it be with friends, business partners, or life partners, or whatever. So it's good to see some, like, this fits kind of the bill of like our big thing of like, you know, big burly masculine men talking about the vulnerability, talking about the emotions, talking about the feelings, because sometimes the loudest, toughest guys on social media are the Goggins types of like, you know, your inner bitch voice. You know, right. If he's, you know, you got to tell him to shut up. And it's like, he and I had a conversation on Saturday in the marathon. You had one with your run. And sometimes you do got to tell that guy to shut up. But sometimes you also have to listen to that guy because he might remember something from childhood that you don't.
Right.
So
100%. I love that. I think, again, on social media, the majority of the people that reach out to me are women.
Oh, yeah.
And they reach out saying, how can I better understand my partner? And
tell them to listen to dad bods.
Right. But they're just like your wife, they're advocating for men. And I think when she's saying don't apologize if you're not sorry, that's not just for her, that's also for you.
Yeah.
So you're not betraying yourself in that either. And so I think that's really an important thing. And it is, I talk a lot about in relationships where almost every relationship is codependent, especially if it's your first one. Because you don't know any better. And then you either stay in that forever or you go to independence, but it's kind of like this, I have to hate women and women, I have to hate men so that I can feel independent. But if we can actually like start taking some accountability for self and breaking away from some of that codependence and finding the self-worth and the self-love and the self-value, whether you're in the relationship or not, you can create this interdependence, which is like, you're amazing and I'm amazing. Let's go be amazing together. And we can both be safe in
that. Like me and you.
Right. That was my exact thought. That's why I pointed here and here.
I'm not holding your hand.
Just come on, one time won't. One time won't hurt. Come on, baby.
I love that. So question speaking to that, what would you say to somebody who says that self-love or self-awareness or like self-work, all that stuff is selfish? Because there's some people who will say like, well, if I'm focusing on this, I can't focus on this person or my kids.
Like I feel selfish tonight. Like right after this, we have one more. We're going to record for our 100th episode, and then I got to go work out. I haven't worked out yet because I had to teach early in the morning today, and I'm just like, I miss my family. I haven't seen them all day. I haven't talked to them all day, but I'm going to go work out because I need to.
Right.
And I feel selfish. It does feel selfish to me, but I'm going to do it because I know I need to.
And it is selfish. And what's wrong with selfish?
Ooh, that's heavy. I didn't even think about it that way. So why does selfish have a negative connotation? I guess interesting.
For me, when it's the negative connotation of selfish, it is if I recognize that I am putting myself above my family and my other responsibilities that I have. But if I look at what I'm doing, like you need to go work out. What's that going to do for your family? That's going to make you healthier. That's going to give you more energy.
A lot more.
Hopefully your family's like, yes, please go do that. You're going to be in a better mood.
My wife is.
Right. be in a better mood. Be a little more fit, right? We're okay with that. And that's a great thing. But again, it's this idea of they might not be happy with me. And so I need to anticipate that they're going to be upset and they're going to call me selfish. And that's where that might be selfish. And so I have to protect myself from what might be projected on me from the other people. But self-care is the only way that you can take care of those around you in a sustainable way. For me in 2020, bottom of the well, I got nothing left. And the little that I have, I'm giving away, and it's like garbage water. It's mud. And they're like, really? This is what you're giving me? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm not happy about it either. And I almost broke. I mean, it got bad. And then I started taking care of myself. And the well starts to fill up. And the well starts to overflow. Now that water, that's good water. That's pure. And you can give that away without sacrifice of self. But it's because my well is full. And that's where it says in the Bible, my cup runneth over. That's what it brings up for me, is this idea of, I'm going to take care of myself.
That is really cool. I've never
others
thought
too.
of it that way.
Yeah.
Gold star.
Yeah. No, I like that because it's like when I just kind of spoke to that a little bit on Saturday doing a recap after the marathon. I was super emotional. I just,
all of us were.
I think it was just this overpouring of gratitude of like everybody that helped us get there. Tyson and I are just sitting on the grass at the end of the race. Both of us just spent, and we shoot a little video and we're both crying, right? Two grown men sitting in the grass under the tree, like schoolyard. And I'm saying, I couldn't do this without you. And he's like, I couldn't do this without you. But then getting home and, and I sat down, and after my wife and kids went outside to play for a minute, I recorded another video just talking about the sacrifices that my wife put forth for me to have the time to train, because it's hours and hours and hours of running every week. Yeah. And so then that changed my perspective during that time when she could have been like, no, I need you home to do this. You don't have time to go run 20 miles. That's going to take you 6 hours to go do all that. Of me trying to make sure like, hey, I know she would appreciate it if I put some more laundry away, or if I took care of some of the dishes, or, I'm coming home from the gym and being like, hey, she works, you had a long day. Do you need me to pick you up something on the way home? Yeah. So it's like, I think it's when your cup is starting to run over, it gives you the empathetic ability to start looking like, I'm being given so much by all these people that I care about. How can I give back? And then everybody's drinking from everybody's well, and then everybody's happy. Yeah. But like you said, it has to start with you, because if your well's empty, I like that analogy. Like the muddy water at the bottom of the well, like nobody's gonna enjoy it.
And I've heard that scripture a million times, but that's never resonated like that before. That was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why you got a gold star.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were giving out gold stars.
He's the first one.
No, Joe, I love this. This has been such an uplifting, and like.
Told you he's good.
Yeah, I didn't say he wasn't.
He's like, why are we bringing him on?
Oh my gosh. No, but I think that it's the perspective of, like you said, the shift change of like, it's men that are in the mental health space, whether they're in their dark, moment, or they're coming out of it, or they're on the, they're on the other end of it. There is a lot of victimhood. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of finger pointing. But I like this perspective that we've taken of that you have to start taking care of yourself. You have to take some ownership, and it's got to be like what you said. Just like guys like to sit in that space, and I'm guilty of it. Yeah, I mean, for years, even I went around telling everybody after I was diagnosed bipolar, I used that as a crutch until a therapist was like, "You gotta stop. Like that's like you're just giving you're starting conversations, giving yourself a way out. Yeah." Like you're giving yourself an excuse to start. And so I like, it's nice hearing the same perspective from somebody else that's done a ton of work themselves.
Interesting. I call that the fat man syndrome, what I have. I'll make fun of myself being fat before anyone else does. And so
well, self-deprecation is it's a type of humor that I've used for years too.
It's true.
Right. So kind of putting you on the spot here again for a second, as we're wrapping up, if there was one little bit of advice or one little nugget, one more thing to share. We do have primarily a lot of men that listen, but we do have the ears of a lot of women as well that are listening to get some insight. So understanding that kind of audience base,
I wasn't joking about that. Like,
what's one little nugget you could share with us on the way out?
One nugget for women, if you want to support men, one of the first things that you can do is show up with sincere curiosity. Not the curiosity like, do you think my, girlfriend is good looking? But a sincere curiosity. Like, what are you feeling? What are you experiencing? What's going on in your world? And if you're sincerely curious and you have the capacity to hold the answer, no matter what it is, that starts to help men believe that there's a safe place for them to start expressing that with women. And for men, it's, if you want to start talking about those things, one of the best things that you can do is start with men. It's way more uncomfortable than women because that's not the way we've been conditioned. But if you can go find another man and talk to him, it's not that it's more important that men are better than women. It's just an order of operations. Because when you start finding that with other men, then your motives and the way that you show up with women change. And so it's for men, the courage to show up and say something real. And for women, the invitation to show up with sincere curiosity to listen what they have to say.
Ooh, I like that, sincere curiosity. Dude, Joe, thank you so much for coming all the way out here, for being on the show.
Yeah.
Where's the best place for everybody to find you on social media and other places?
Instagram, the Algies Guard, or at Joe Speredon. Both of those accounts are me. And it's probably the best places right now.
Awesome. Well, we'll tag you on all that stuff. We're gonna put some clips out.
Amazing, man. Thank you.
We're definitely gonna need to get a list of those books out there. So go check out Joe. Go check out the Algies Guard, and we will catch you guys next week.
Toodles.